Metaverse.
Greetings, I'm Shad.
And greetings, I am Tyrant.
And Tyrant, apparently we don't know how to cut with a katana.
Okay.
The phraseology is also, you must cut a certain way with a katana, and if you don't cut with it that way, what you were doing was invalid and unjustified and of no worth, basically.
Right, even when we cut things with it?
Even when we successfully cut things with it.
Okay, is those the rules we're playing by these days? All right, fair enough.
Well, here's the thing. People who honestly believe that mentality reveal they don't know much about swords or how you fight with swords.
Well, something similar to this is people saying you always have to block with the flat. Like, yes. Don't get me wrong. If you can, do it. Yeah. But at the same time, if you have to block with that edge, you will block with that edge. Yeah.
And that's what I meant about sword fighting, because when you're fighting with the sword, there are many angles and positions that you get in, right? Yeah. Where you just need a cut.
Yes.
Okay? And restricting your movement to always pulling it in, reducing your range and reach, especially if you want to do a fast, like a snap.
Snap cut, yep.
Right? Means you would be restricting yourself in such a detrimental way in combat, you would half your effectiveness.
Right.
Okay?
Well, I also, don't get me wrong, I understand where people come from with draw cuts, but I'm not sold that they are like so much more effective, even to begin with.
Exactly. And there is an additional misconception. This is why I want to do a video. There's layers of misconception. There is this idea that a katana gets greater benefit out of doing draw cuts because it has the curve on it than if you were to do similar draw cuts with a straight sword.
Right.
That right there is completely false.
Well, maybe if you had a much more aggressive curve.
Much more aggressive curve.
Like, that's the katana there, and this is a straight sword. We're talking a tiny little.
Tiny curve. Like it's barely off straight. And if you're looking at the ratio of where the blade contacts the target,
yep.
It is basically straight. You can barely perceive the curve there.
Yeah.
Okay? And even on really heavy draw cuts, the targets that you're cutting through are usually so small that you're only increasing the cutting ratio by a couple of centimeters.
Nothing, barely anything, yeah.
I've even modeled this on a 3D model to compare, am I on crazy pills, right? To compare a katana with the standard curve compared to a straight sword, right? Yeah. And the ratio in a draw cut on a standard size target was the difference in the cutting ratio, right? Which is the amount of blade that kind of slices and moves as it cuts, was so small that it was not even worth acknowledging.
So, in my experience, when it comes to cutting with a sword, the most important factors are things like sharpness, your edge angle, how good your actual angle of a cut is, and sometimes things like your wrist or your arm, things like if you're not fully committed, things like that is where I've found either really good cuts or really bad cuts.
I'll also add edge geometry, how much the sword vibrates, weights of the sword.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that there aren't really aggressive draw cuts that you can get with, but those aren't the standard draw cuts. The standard draw cuts people are talking about is actually a difference in grip that helps accentuate it. So when I went to Japan, which I did, got to study some Japanese swordsmanship, right? Yep. The actual way that they predominantly focus on the grip is this is the strong grip, and this is the guiding grip. And they do it because by making this the strong grip, you're encouraged to pull it in more, okay? In practice, and I've cut both ways, I have found no significant difference in regular, European grip versus more traditional Japanese grip, which is not consistent amongst all Japanese schools of swordsmanship either, by the way.
Well, let's pull out a sword that I do think maybe a draw cut would be a little bit more effective with.
Yes.
These are something that we recently got from Cult of Athena. There will be a link in the description. We're doing full reviews.
Full reviews. We have affiliate links for these swords. This one is a Cult of Athena exclusive, actually.
That one's nice. I like that one.
This one is surprisingly light and nimble, right? Look how aggressive the curves are.
And this is something where if you said to me a draw cut maybe yields a bit better results, I'd be like, okay,
well, not only that. Even on regular normal cuts, you will end up doing a draw cut
just because
of the aggressive curve.
Yeah.
Now, can we compare this type of curve to a katana just to show you the difference? Okay, look at this difference. All right, that's where draw cutting suddenly becomes a big deal, and this is why these types of swords are often regarded as aggressively effective cutting swords.
Yes. And today we wanted to do some cuts for you. We're
Demonstrations.
We're going to do some draw cuts. We're going to do some chop cuts. And honestly, I think it's just going to come down to how sharp our swords are.
Yeah, because this is the thing, right? If you are saying that a katana will cut better when you're doing a draw cut, remember, it's basically off straight. That means you will get just as much benefit when doing a draw cut with a straight sword.
Yeah.
Okay? But the other thing is, if you're honestly saying that a sword will only cut to its optimal level in the most effective way possible, if you're only going to be cutting with it a certain way, that's a crap sword.
Yeah.
Okay? You want a sword to be able to cut effectively in multiple ways.
And they do.
Yes.
I want to be clear about that. They do as well.
Yes.
Like, you can do chop cuts with every sword type, and all of them, if you have a good blade, they're sharp enough, and you have good edge geometry, it's gonna cut.
Well, people also don't understand the difference. Some people do, don't get me wrong, about the difference between a chop, a cut, a slice, a draw cut. And so let's just be really clear and open about the cuts that we most often default to in our tests are the most standard cuts most swordsmen do. And by the way, guess what? These are cuts that we see Japanese swordsmen doing as well on cutting targets, which baffles me when they say you're supposed to be cutting with a katana a certain way, when we see Japanese cutting masters not doing draw cuts, just a standard normal cuts.
Why don't we get into some cuts?
Let's do it. Nathan, that is an exceptionally cool looking hoodie you're wearing there.
I look stylish, don't I?
Yeah, it looks kind of familiar. It reminds me of something.
I don't know what you're talking about, Shad.
Yeah, I wonder what it could be. So the official Shadiversity Brigandine hoodies are available for a limited time. So if you haven't grabbed your one yet, do get them while they're available. And check it out. You can see they are completely inspired by the Brigandines that we're wearing. They have stealth logos, really high quality, thick, durable. These are sewn on, okay? They're not just like bad prints or anything like that. Sewn on rivets, strong zip. What do you think about it, Nathan?
They are the nicest merch I think we've ever had.
Legitimately. And they're available for a limited time, so grab one while they're available, and let's continue on with the testing. All right, so to start us off, I'm using the Romance of Men katana. We actually have a video where this basically gets a review, and it's involved with our destruction testing of the Taitsuki katana, but actually a really good sword. And so just starting off with a standard cut. Now, a draw cut is when you want to draw it in. One of the limitations about it, it does limit your range. But a draw cut is coming in like that, okay? And just to drive the point home, take note of the hand position at the beginning of the cut versus where my hands are after I've cut through the target. Further back from the beginning position because I'm pulling the cut inwards, making a draw cut, whereby we can show and prove to you that yes, we are performing textbook accurate draw cuts as proven by these still frames right here. But to also drive a point home, do you think you can't cut like that with a straight sword? And once again, take a look at the beginning hand positions just as the sword hits the target versus the hand positions after the target, proving that these cuts are absolutely being pulled backwards, drawing the blade along the target as it passes through. Just as easy. I genuinely, on those draw cuts, felt no difference in resistance or ease in going through. By the way, look, there is no tearing, no scalping. That is smooth as butter. Now, let's do a draw cut with a sword that exaggerates that curve. And so just to kind of get that same motion, I'm going to have my two hands here so I can kind of follow through in the same way and just step into it. I'm not noticing anything that didn't expect. That was cake. But also the thing is, you don't necessarily need to step in with a sword like this. If you angle it down and just come in like that, absolute cake. But also, you can do more choppy cuts with a very curved sword. So I'm not coming in on a shallow angle, I'm coming in on a steep angle here, and watch. What? You can do flat cuts with a curved sword as well, and they cut really well? Shocking. Now, I do want to mention some of the differences in the types of cuts that I'm performing here, because a straight chop is when the sword comes in flat. And so if I was standing front, it is coming in flat. And those are usually the most ineffective cuts. No, the most standard cut is one where it comes in, instead of flat, it's on an angle and it's coming down like that. But it also has a drawing motion on it. Most cuts will draw and have some movement, especially when you're angling the sword the correct way. So when you come down, then not a problem. But of course, you can exaggerate it even further by bending the arms and then stepping into it That's going to draw the blade along the pool noodle. The thing is though, if the katana is any good, it absolutely better be able to chop with just flat basic. Look, I'm going to do a flat basic, no anything. A sword that cuts well should be able to cut well with multiple different styles of cuts. So to say that you always need to do these specific type of draw cuts like so is nonsense.
So to echo some of Shad's points, what I'm going to start with is just some chop motions. I'm not going to draw, I'm not even going to angle the blade. I am just going to hold it out flat and I'm going to stop it. Usually I would want to catch some of that momentum. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to chop. Simple as that. And that is beautiful cuts. And like we said before, it can usually just come down to the sharpness of the edge. And when you do something like a draw cut, there's no discernible difference in any of these cuts. And especially when we're doing reviews and we're cutting mediums like pool noodles or water bottles, doing those type of cuts doesn't really make that much of a difference. Now, the comments that we got for this particular, that inspired this video, were from the tatami one. The truth of the matter is, I have also cut tatami chopping and doing slices, doing draw cuts, and they're all kind of the same. I had some issues on that day because honestly, I was a bit out of practice and I hadn't actually cut in a while, and I don't like admitting this, but Shad was a little bit right. I was half-assing it a little bit. I shouldn't have done that. But back to these draw cuts, no difference. And we'll try some other swords just to really drive home this point.
There are other types of draw cuts that you can do, right? Like if you are able to angle the blade close to the opponent and you're here, and from this position, you then draw it back and cut like there, all right? It's more resistive, but the point that I'm making here, right? You can do that type of cut just as well with a straight sword. You angle the sword in, it's close, and you just draw it back, all right? That was actually probably a bit easier and more effective than I did it with the katana. So hitting the point home again, which we're gonna really push because it seems like a lot of people don't understand this. A katana does not cut better than many other straight swords by doing draw cuts. In actual fact, you should expect it to cut just as well on standard angular cuts as a straight sword. And to say you're cutting wrong is actually trying to say that you think the katana can't cut well unless you're doing this specific type of cut, which is almost a negative opinion of the katana and also just not true.
Do some chops. Ooh, that sounded nice. This is, yeah, have you seen this?
It's got some flex on it.
It's super flexible.
I like it. So there's a couple of swords that we're showcasing in this. This is the Honshu, it's one of their Viking swords.
Viking swords, yeah.
We very recently got it, so we'll be doing a review on this. We've also shown off some of the shamshis we got from Cult of Athena. We've been showing off the Romance of Men katana. We have affiliate links for all these swords.
All in the description.
In the description.
We'll have dedicated views coming at some point for probably the big ones.
Yeah.
But so far, I'm enjoying all of them. And just to add to that point, because we didn't mention it before, all the swords that we are currently using in this video have factory edges. So we haven't sharpened them, we haven't used them before, all of them are brand new, except for the single-handed broadsword from Honshu. That one, obviously, you guys have seen in countless videos. That one has been sharpened up, but funnily enough, it's not even as sharp as all the other swords. Oh, that's so flexible. Let's try and do just a standard chop. It's so aggressive that you can feel it. Didn't like that one. It's too thick.
Yeah, that's probably what you're running into.
It's super duper thick. I felt it even on the normal cuts.
Could be technique. There's only one way to find out.
Go for it, Shad. It's got an edge.
It's sharp.
It's just thick.
Isn't this like is it the thickness? Because this should be easier to do the draw cut with.
It's
wow.
That's why we said cross-section as well.
Let me just do a, so this is going to be an angled horizontal. Oh, I did feel that slice through like that. All right, a bit lower. All right.
But you can, when you cut through that, right, you felt that was thicker, a bit more grabby.
The next thing that I want to just retest, okay, the feeling of the difference of the standard grips, okay, where the bottom grip is the strong grip and that top one is the guiding hand, okay? And so now I'm switching it. I actually found this one easier. I had more control and strength over this. I mean, I prefer this one anyway because it's closer to the point of balance, which gives me more control. That actually felt like I had more strength. You give it a go. Specifically, what are you doing first?
Traditional.
You didn't feel any difference?
They're identical. Okay, I have to be honest here.
Yeah.
Personally, I am a little bit ambidextrous. I do use my left and right for different things. So personally, they felt identical to me.
And then now reversing. I still felt this one was a bit stronger for me. I just feel more control because I'm close to the point of balance.
I agree that it does feel more control, but as in terms of the cut, they feel identical.
Well,
in terms of control of the blade, yes, because we're choking it up. Yeah.
The thing is that people say is in the Japanese grip, this one naturally creates more drawing motion. No, it doesn't.
I don't think so. It really doesn't. If anything, I feel like I can pull back on that blade to really.
What it's switching is the point of leverage.
Yeah.
And so when this is the strong one, the lever point is here. When this is the strong one, the lever point is here and you're guiding it that way.
Yeah.
But in this one, you're guiding it that way. If I compare to this, right, that lever point doesn't encourage a drawing motion.
It doesn't.
That creates more of a chop. Where if this is the lever point, that creates more of a slice.
Yeah.
It's pretty close, but
I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but if we're asking specifically in terms of what makes a better draw cut, I do think having the point here where you can angle it.
Because you've got the control of the wrist.
Yep, you can either go down or you can bring it.
Yeah. All right, but ultimately, even though I'm finding a difference and I have a preference, that's not me saying you will feel the same thing.
Sure.
Do what you feel works best and what you like most. This is the ultimate takeaway of when people say, you're not cutting the way that you should.
Let me put it this way. If you can cut things and you have fun with it and you enjoy it and it looks great, go for it, man. You do you.
Hold it between your butt cheeks if that works. Like if you're showing effective cuts, I actually don't care how you're holding it. Of course, be safe and all that.
Yes.
The whole idea that, no, there is this one way to cut and that everyone who is not cutting the way that I am imposing is now doing it wrong is elitist nonsense.
And we like to include when we fail at a cut.
Yes.
Like sometimes, we'll just have good days where there's no bad cuts, but sometimes we don't do a review for a while. You're acting like I had one bad day. I had one bad day, mate.
We know what you're referring to there, Tyreth.
Sometimes you do have a bad day, and I got a bit nervous because it was $3,000. You best believe when I almost spoiled something right there.
We don't know when this video is coming out, so.
Yep, I almost spoiled something. But I think that's all for today.
That's really it, okay? I don't think the way we cut was actually out of the ordinary, because we've seen Japanese masters cut the way that we cut, as well as doing more aggressive draw cuts. We've shown there's not much of a difference.
It's a sword. It's sharp.
Yeah.
If you swing it hard at something, it's probably going to cut it.
And also, right, if we are trying to compare how well a sword cuts compared to another sword, it's important that we are trying to cut the same way between both swords. If we are going to be cutting a special way that gives it a greater advantage in being able to get through the target than the other swords we're cutting with, that creates a biased review.
And in that review, the one that sparked this whole thing, we were just comparing it to nothing. It was just reviewing
how
that
well
sword.
does it cut based on the standard way that not only we cut, it is the most standard way to cut this motion.
Yeah.
Right? And instead of drawing it in, just pushing it down.
And the thing is, what was surprising about it was the cuts were great.
This is a double roll of tatami mat. Oh, come on. Look at how straight that is. that is damn near flawless cut, man. That's like one of the best cuts I've ever done. Like, it was cutting like a friggin' laser.
Yeah, we said the cutting capacity
But
of it was
people
fantastic.
got triggered because some of the tatami cuts we didn't get through. And it was the horizontal ones that they were saying if you were cutting the right way, you would have gotten through.
But see, the problem with that is I've also used tatami cut the exact same way with a different katana with horizontal cuts. We've done that as well.
Yes, and in actual fact, the horizontal cuts, it's hard to see because if I demonstrate, facing this, it's hard to see if we're hitting there, but I'm always focusing on angling the blade. So instead of there, I'm like this, and that creates a draw cutting motion where it's there, and you just go, I almost got it. Still chopped it in half.
But yeah, I think that's all for today. If you want to check out the original review of the $3,000 tight
If it's out by this video,
it should, I don't know.
should be. But also, if you're interested in any of these swords featured in the videos, affiliate links, as well as the Shadowversity hoodie, which is just awesome. I love that thing. And check out that video right there. You can see it in action.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.